Tired of everyone telling you to find your passion, but no one telling you how? Welcome to the Korean Connection, and I'm your host, Korean, an attorney with a passion for empowering others to use their many talents and skills towards a path of self discovery and alignment. Join me as I share my personal stories, professional insights, and practical tips, and how you can connect the dots between what you're great at and turning your passions into purpose. Let's connect. Push it to the left, make it go no more. Make it like no, I'm coming back home. I'm trying to roll all my you. I'ma be the greatest, write my name in the stone. Write my name in the stone. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Yeah, I'm coming back home. Write my name in the stone. Cause I'm coming back home. Cause I'm coming back home. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the Korean Connection. This episode, I'm going to be talking about really just how I'm feeling today. I came into the studio today and I just was not feeling like recording, as much as I love recording and doing the show, and this is obviously my passion, sometimes it's just hard to find the motivation and the drive to just get there, to do the thing. I had a guest that I was expecting to come on today, and she canceled last minute, and that just sort of added to my already feeling of not feeling, motivated. And so I just want to kind of talk today about acknowledging, when you're feeling these feelings of not being motivated, not knowing how to push through, being vulnerable enough to recognize that you're, physically and mentally, your body's not where, you need to be in order to get the task done. And this episode, I just want to be honest and real about just what I'm feeling today. Everything gets so busy so quickly, and you're juggling so much, and life just gets overwhelming. And in pursuing your passions and taking it an even step further in connecting those passions to purpose, you're not going to want to do that every day, right? And we never really talk about so much the days when you just don't feel like you have the drive to do any of it. And that's really just how I'm feeling today. And I'm trying to ask myself, why am I feeling like this? Like I just mentioned to you some of the reasons that kind of triggered me into this feeling a little bit, but it's really me. When you're not in an okay place, it's hard to stir up that passion within you in order to continue to connect those dots. When I'm frustrated, it takes time. It takes time for me to get out of those feelings. I have to feel it first and let that feeling kind of wash over me. But I try not to let it dwell for too long. But I have to sit in it for a little bit. And then I start to rationalize why I'm feeling this way. And then, try to come up with some level of solution. So that's generally how I typically deal with frustration. And the phases, depending on the level of frustration, those phases can take longer. The sitting in it part might be a little bit longer than the strategizing part, right? But that's generally the process of how it tend to go. I try to put myself in an activity or talk to someone is usually where I would go. I usually like to talk my things out. So I'd usually call a friend and just let them know how I'm feeling. And then through talking it out usually is my release. So once I say it, then I can have some sense of resolution that I'm coming. Because once I'm talking, I'm rationalizing too. So it forces me to think it through and to acknowledge the feeling, You know what it is? I think more so than anything, I'm frustrated with the fact that I am unprepared today. Whenever Saturday rolls around, this podcast means the world to me. And Saturday comes so quickly. Sometimes I can't even believe it's Friday night, And then I'm like, oh my God, I haven't even, thought about, or planned out the subject matter that I plan to discuss. What I try to do ahead of time is try to, have maybe like a month amount of topics to discuss, but I don't develop them out. I just have like the topics. So I can choose for instance, today on my drive here, I'm like, given the feeling that I'm feeling, I was one of the topics I was considering talking about was, failing forward and, imposter syndrome. And that's sort of not necessarily what I'm feeling, but it's sort of in that kind of like that state of mind that I'm in. So I'm like, well, maybe I can just pull from that subject and do that. But I'm not in that space. So it's always like a constant struggle to just kind of get back on the wheel. But what I was saying is that when it comes to recording my podcast, it's so important to me. So when I feel ill prepared, it really messes with my mind, right? Because it's sort of that imposter syndrome thing does come, like, you're not taking it serious. You're not taking it as serious. And then I kind of like get down on myself, like, why don't you have this developed out already? Should have 6 months of content out already. Why is your guest not here? Maybe I should have followed up with her during the week, but the week also got away from me. And now I'm here sort of feeling like fish out of water, and all that stuff kind of plays into the motivation. So, now that I'm thinking about it, sometimes, we blame motivation for things, but sometimes it's just the lack of preparedness that makes you feel unmotivated, and gives that imposter syndrome room to breathe and grow. So I think to me today, that was a lot of what played into it. Just the week just went by super fast. Didn't get a chance to put much thought into it to prepare. And then coming here and having the anxiety because, one, I know that you're here waiting for me, and that definitely gives me some level of accountability to make sure that I get here and get it done. So this is a huge part of my motivation. But, just the level of unpreparedness for today's session just really played into my head and really got to me and kind of have me in a little down of a mood. And I think because I know where I want to take this platform, when this setback of not being prepared sort of plays into my mental space of like, well, how are you ever going to even get to where you want to be if on a weekly basis, you can't even prepare for the Saturday session. You know what I mean? And I don't know to what extent other people feel this way and how do they overcome those feelings, but it's just a lot. Life is a lot. We're getting closer to the kids being back to school. And that's a whole nother thing too. I had, this weekend was supposed to be such a jam-packed, it is such a jam-packed weekend. I had something to do. Thursday, I had an event with my coworkers and I had to meet them in the city for that. And that was fun. And then Friday, I had a reunion with my DA's office people from, where all the people I started at the Manhattan DA's office with in 2009. We planned a little impromptu reunion yesterday. We were supposed to meet up at 6 o'clock. And then I had reservations for a birthday party at 8 o'clock, 8:30 in the city, in Midtown. And the reunion was all the way down in Chinatown. And I ultimately didn't even make it to my reunion because, the kids' shopping went overtime. And then by the time I went home to get dressed, I missed something that was so important to me, And it just this feeling of just like missing out because of this time just slips away. But, just like, along what you're saying, even through those feelings and finding your way and pushing your way through those feelings, that comes with then you have to kind of find the strength to do it, And I guess that's something that's worth, exploring too. Like, how do you find the motivation to do it even when you don't want to do it? Because even in that moment of sad, and I'm going to do what you said, because I think for me that would work. But just sort of pushing it a little bit further for people who may have a little bit more difficult time doing it in that moment or whenever that feeling hits them, to still be able to find the thing that's going to motivate you to just want to get it done. And sometimes that's really hard. So like where do you find that motivation from? Is it internal? Sometimes it can be external. Who's the person that you can call if you're that person that need to speak to someone that is going to give you that sort of uplifting message? Is usually what I try to do, honestly, is kind of go through my Rolodex of positive people to see who's going to give me some level of uplifting spirit. I just didn't have any time to do that this morning as well. So I kind of came in here still having that feeling because on my drive here, I'm sort of like still trying to figure out what I'm going to be, you know, where it's going to lead me for this session. And it's funny as you say, you just keep showing up. That's so important because literally on this drive here, Claude, when I knew that I was gonna, the traffic was building, the time just keep going back and back. I'm already running late to get here. I have an event that's after this, that I kind of want to get to. And got to a point where I was just like, is it even worth still going? Should I just call and cancel today's session because I'm only going to be able to be there for 30 minutes anyway? And I almost did that. I almost turned around on the highway and head to Manhattan. But I was just like, you know what, Korean, just even if it's just one session, just go and do the 30-minute session. We normally do more than one. So just showing up and look, and that's a great lesson too, because I showed up still feeling unmotivated. And look at this. And you turned out to be, a part of my motivational force, right? To even have this conversation and to keep going. And even my commitment to you as a person, I wanted to honor that, even if it was for a short period of time, and it's a paid session. If I miss it, you just move on to your next client, so you're not missing out anything. But I still felt like I didn't want to disappoint you in not coming here, and I didn't want to disappoint myself because I knew how much horrible of a feeling it would be if I turned around and went to Manhattan, had a nice relaxing day, know that I hadn't recorded anything for this week. When I could have had not 2 sessions, I didn't even have 1, and now I have 0, right? So sometimes even feeling unmotivated, the lesson is just to show up. Because you never know when you're going to get that next burst of what you're seeking, which is the motivation. And I definitely, look at me now, right? I feel so much better. So thank you for that. That little light bulb came off when you're saying just get here. And I just thought about that moment I had in the car when I was literally about to turn around and head to Manhattan. So that's a great lesson to learn, to just show up. And show up not just for the people in your life, show up for you. Because I know for me, the stain of disappointment when I disappoint myself, that is actually the worst feeling, because you could have done something and you chose to do nothing, right? And then you have to live, with that feeling ruminating in the back of your head when you could have just given yourself a little something to hang your hat on, So I really appreciate that message, Claude. Even on that strength of just looking back, a couple weeks ago, I had to have a real sit down talk with myself because I was kind of spazzing out a little bit, Been doing the podcast thing since I launched on May 1st on my birthday. And, sometimes it also gets discouraging when you don't see, you're not getting the results of, the results are not happening fast enough, and I know when we first started, you were like, oh, this is going to take some time, it's not going to happen overnight. And I'm like, Claude, whatever, man, I'm going to have my viral hit and it's not going to take 10 years and technology is different and social media and, all the things. And I'm just like, I'm looking and I'm like, I have 94 followers. And which I'm very, very thankful for all the people who still tune in. And, however small or big the community is, I still thank you guys for tuning in and being devoted to watching the Korean Connection. I really appreciate it because I want the message to come through, and that's what's important to me, no matter how many people get a chance to hear it. But I hope obviously a lot more people hear it. But, I was having a moment just sort of thinking and the algorithm, and I need to beat the system, and how many I need to put out per day. And, and I was literally driving myself crazy. I'm going to continue the course with you. And you will definitely see me here every Saturday, whether I want to be here, or not in that moment. But because I know I do want to be here. You see me when I'm here, I light up, I can talk forever. But sometimes, those life challenges, they do sort of get you down and they get to you, and you have to find the motivation and the drive to sort of push through them. And I'm glad that I'm doing that. And this is such a great lesson for anybody that's starting a business, for anyone who's looking to start, venturing into anything new, like Claude said, getting those little muscle memory going, takes consistency. And once the muscle memory hits, then you don't have to work so hard. The muscle memory becomes discipline. And then it just becomes, you becomes like an automated machine. And so I'm not there yet, guys. I'm still in the planning, very much in the strategizing, very much in the trying to remain consistent, very much into building discipline. And, this hits me very hard because I've never really been a disciplined person, and it's weird when I say that to some people, they're like, how? I'm sort of like, still a free spirit, I'm very flexible. We need to rephrase how we describe ourselves, is what I was going to say. I think sometimes, and this was a great lesson for me, in stop telling myself that I'm not disciplined. I say that a lot. And, and every time I say it, people disagree with me because they don't see that, right, in me. But I guess because I don't, in my mind, discipline is sort of, I have an idea of what I believe discipline to be. And because I know who I am as a person and what my flaws are, I identify with the part of discipline that I know I am not, right? That robotic side. But I am disciplined, and I need to start telling myself that I'm disciplined and start and kind of get that narrative out of my head, because sometimes you speak those things onto yourself and into existence. And that's not something that I want to put forward in the world, to tell people that I'm not a disciplined person. I'm disciplined because I am disciplined, because I do follow through and I don't quit, and I am resilient. So my discipline is definitely in that. And like Claude says, the goal is to be 1% better every day. And so I'm going to be incorporating my Saturday routine after I record, while my brain is flowing, the words are flowing, and I'm feeling rejuvenated from being with you guys, which is the highlight of my week. Truly, is to be with you guys every Saturday. I'm going to use that. That is the motivation that I can give to myself to put myself where I need to be. And so thank you for that, Claude. I really appreciate you for that, because I feel like that's a game changer for me and my personality. And the lesson for you, the takeaway from this lesson, I didn't come here feeling the best. I didn't come here feeling motivated. I didn't even come here having a strong topic in mind. But I wanted to showcase to you that even though you see me on the set every week and it's consistent, it's not always easy. And like Claude says, you have to plan. And I am going to incorporate planning to plan. And I think in order to continue to be successful and find the drive for yourself, you have to get there. You have to just show up. A big part of finding the motivation and the drive, especially when you don't want to do something, just put yourself in the place where you don't want to be. Just show up. And once you show up, the universe will more than likely give you the next step you need, which is the word, the gem you may need, the motivation you're seeking, may be in the next step. But because you never got there, you don't know. And I'm so glad that I decided to take the step to not turn around on the highway to go to my next event because I wasn't feeling it. I'm so glad that I took the step to just get here with whatever little time that I was going to have to record this session. It was totally worth it to just get here and get the word and get the motivation and be your own motivation, right? Another lesson that I'm taking from today's session is don't speak negative on yourself. Speak positivity on your life, on your attitude. I am a disciplined person, and I need to stop, not because I identify as being a free spirit and being flexible, right? Which is what, like Claude says, makes my personality, doesn't mean that I am not disciplined. I'm disciplined. I am resilient. I am, I'm a go-getter. I don't quit. And so that's my discipline. And so you have to also reframe the things, the negativity, the words that you use to describe yourself, because those have impact. So I'm definitely finding the gem in that. Show up find the motivation. And if you can't find the motivation, just get there and the universe will do the rest. Thank you so much, guys, for working this one out with me, helping me work through this one, to give you guys this lesson that we're both going to be taking into the next session until we connect next time on the Korean Connection. See you next time, and let's connect. Thank you guys for connecting with me today. Don't forget to follow, like, and subscribe to my channel, The Korean Connection. To connect with me, you can email me at thekoreanconnection@gmail.com. And don't forget that sometimes your passion whispers before it roars. And if you're listening closely, the next episode might be where it gets louder. Let's connect. Push it to the